All right, guys, today we're going to talk about or get into the most common issues and how to diagnose and get into it, whether it be a valve problem or a discharge restriction. We're going to talk about the 70-pound safety valve here, what it does, why it's there, and this 200-pound safety valve, what it does and why it's there, and also my unloader valve, the centrifugal unloader bleeder valve that bleeds off head pressure at shutoff. So your most common issues, let's say this 70-pound safety valve is popping. You can sure replace that, but 99% of the time it's popping for a reason. And the sole purpose of that safety valve is to pop if the air can't travel from the first stage of compression to the second stage through this manifold properly. Or if it backflows and overpressurizes this chamber, that's where it pops the safety valve. So anytime one of these 70-pound safety valves are popping that are on that intercooler, which carries the air from the first stage of compression to the second, you're always going to want to look at your back three valves on the top head. It almost 99% of the time is one of these back three valves and not the actual safety valve. Now, again, you can sure change the safety valve. That's a pretty cheap, inexpensive, fix. If it doesn't fix it, we know there's an issue with one of the back three valves. So what happens is the air is sucked in the air intake. It goes through the first two valves and then gets pushed into this chamber. That's the first stage of compression. When it gets through this chamber, it gets into these back three valves, and that's the second stage of compression. That's how you get a two-stage pump with the higher pressures of 175. A single stage pump might have two pistons on it, but they're pumping directly into the tank. The air is not compressed twice before it gets into the tank. So again, if this 70-pound safety valve is popping, you have an issue with one of your back three valves. And just like I showed you on the front valve here that I took out, same concept. Do them individually, do them one at a time. You're inspecting them to make sure the valve can move in seat properly, to make sure that there's no carboning or a gap in between the disc and the spring. If it's like that, you know the air can backflow and overpressurize this chamber. If that copper washer gasket I showed you in the last video or last segment is not intact or is marred up or doesn't look good, it's worth replacing. 99% of the time, again, I just want to stress, if this valve is popping, it's an issue with one of your back three valves. Now, if this safety valve is popping, the 200-pounder, which is over here on the C2, that's an issue with the air getting from the pump to the tank. So whether you have an aftercooler or the tube just goes directly from your pump into your tank, it's got to be a restriction in the flow from the air getting from the pump to the tank. This manifold and this manifold on the C2 are literally there to cool the air after the second stage of compression and carry the air from the pump to the tank after compression. So if this 200-pound safety valve is popping on the C1 pump, which is here, or on the C2 pump, which is right here, you know it's an issue with the air flowing from the pump to the tank. So what you need to look at is your tubes that go from the pump to the tank, the check valve, if there's any aftercooler or radiator type belt guard aftercooler, which cools the air in between from pump to tank. You need to look at whether it's carboned up, whether it's plugged, whether it's frozen, whatever it is that doesn't allow the air that the pump is making to get to the tank like it needs to, that's the issue if this 200-pound safety valve is popping. Now again, you can sure try to change the safety valve, but it's popping for a reason. We need to address why it's popping. 99% of the time, if this 200-pound safety valve on the C1 is popping or on the C2 here, it's an issue with the air going from one stage or from the pump to the tank.